I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Arakwal people of the Bundjalung Nation, and pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Human Design Podcast with me, your host, Emma Dunwoody. I'm a qualified master coach and human behaviour specialist, as well as being a qualified human design coach. And I work with clients every single day to answer the big questions. Who am I? Why am I here? And what is my purpose? I also assist them to transition from the person they think they should be to the person they really are on the inside. I teach people how to actually live their design instead of just knowing it. And if this is something that you want to do too, well, stay tuned or reach out for private coaching or Human Design Unpacks, where I show you exactly how to live your design. Hey everyone, and welcome to today's episode. I'm excited. I'm excited because in such alignment with my design, I'm responding to one of my amazing Instagram, I don't like the word followers, but I'm going to have to use it right now, but one of the people that often reaches out to me and shares things. And Alicia said to me, I think it was last week, she said, I'd love to hear you riff with real life examples of people who are living their design and why, and going through their charts. Because as a manifester, she can feel confused sometimes about initiating and how she's supposed to manifest things into the world. So thanks, Alicia. This little MG over here was like, that's a freaking great idea, because I have been hanging out to introduce all of you to our coaching team. We have a team of coaches that work with us, with our HDX members. And I keep saying we've got to get them on the podcast and talk about them and introduce them to you guys. And well, what a perfect example. So we are kicking off the series with our reflector coach. So welcome, Britta Buchanan.
Hello, Emma. It's so lovely to be here. I'm so excited.
Aren't you loving that we're kicking off with the reflector? I think
I love it. Reflector love. Woohoo.
Exactly. Let's mess with the way everyone else does it and do it a little bit differently. So we're going to dive into a few questions. We're going to talk about you and integrating your chart into your life. Before we do that, though, the question that I'm super curious about is because from my perspective, and I'm not a reflector, but I do have a little bit of an obsession with you guys, as you know. I feel like there's a lot of unresourceful stuff out there for reflectors. And I think we sort of teach and support reflectors differently. So I'd love to maybe just start there. Like when you first came to human design, maybe what are the things that you learnt that haven't served you or confused it or something like that?
I think there's a lot of stuff out there about reflectors that have really served me. I personally do tend to wait in the lunar cycle for 28 days to make big decisions. And I definitely resonate with just being the reflection. But I think one of the things that it gets really confusing and that people don't really understand is that a lot of times they talk about meaning I think the human design community talks about us as being a reflection and nothing more than that. And that can feel really belittling and really like, what do you mean? I'm not a whole person like the rest of the times. And so something that I have really tried to lean into, I think since joining the mastermind almost a year ago now with you, and just in my own life, is recognizing the other parts of my chart. I have profiles. I have profiles in my chart. I have a bunch of gates in my chart, and even though they're all hanging, they're still there. And I have the 4 arrows. There's so many different parts of me that exist, and I think just honoring all of that has been really empowering for me. That yes, I do reflect things that is part of my aura, and I resonate with that deeply in life, just like seeing how my reflection can impact people. but it's also so much deeper than that. There's so much more nuance to the reflector than that.
Oh my God, I love that. I'm so grateful that I get to work with so many of you. And I feel like one of the first things I say is like, there's consistency everywhere. It's in your chart. And that's exactly what you're talking about, you know? So tell me, when did you actually start your human design experiment?
Well, I was introduced to human design in late 2019, early 2020. I can't remember the exact time. In true fourth line fashion, a friend told me about it. And I resonated with being a reflector, but I actually ended up putting it away for about a year because I was turned off by the origin story. I grew up in a very factual, scientific-based household, and it just made me really uncomfortable that Ra had channeled all of this stuff. So I put it away and was working with other modalities for a while. But then about a year later, I got this little nudge. I was like, you should look into human design again. And so I did. And eventually I found your podcast and I started listening to it regularly. And at that point, I hadn't made the choice to invest in human design yet because I still wasn't 100% certain about it. And so I spent a lot of time listening to your podcast. The thing that really, I think when I really started to invest in my experiment was when I moved. I moved from Washington, D.C., right across the river to now I live in Alexandria, Virginia. And I noticed immediately a huge shift in my being. And something I had learned about reflectors is that reflectors' environment is very important to us. And so just noticing that shift in my body based on location, I was like, okay, there's something to this human design stuff. I've been kind of dipping my feet in, but now I'm going to really start working on my experiment. And so that was summer 2021. And it took me another year before I finally decided to invest in it and join the mastermind. But I feel like I was I knew about human design and it was, it was in it, but it wasn't really until mid 2021 when I was really like, okay, this is when I am going to take this seriously and start diving into it.
I love that. And what were the challenges? What was going on in your life that was like, okay, I can't ignore this. Now I really want to make a change, make a shift, whatever that was for you. What was going on that the human design was the solution to, or at least partial solution to?
Yeah. Well, when I first started really diving into my experiment, I was in a really unresourceful housing situation for me. It was I will say I would use the word toxic. I was a very toxic environment. I felt like I was the problem in the situation, but really when I look back on it, I was reflecting a lot of the negativity that was already in the house. And so learning that I was a reflector just was really I feel like there was so much from that situation that I didn't fully understand it until I came out of it. But learning that I was a reflector kind of gave me permission to continue to do what felt right for me. Even though everybody else thought I was being a total asshole because I didn't want to participate in housing stuff, it was for me, my reflector body is telling me something and I need to listen to it. I'm not in a place where I can get out of this housing situation yet, but I can listen to my body and know that these people don't feel good for me and I need to honor that. And if that makes me look like the bad guy, so be it. And so that's kind of where I started to really before I had moved, that's when I was really kind of more invested in the reflector part of it. And then after I had moved, human design had really helped me and it started to help me in other areas as well. But I feel like that's the thing where I was like, okay, this makes so much sense. Yeah. I could go for longer, but I think that's the catalyst. That was the catalyst, I think.
I love it because I think, there are these small things that we are faced with. And I say small, and that's probably not the best word because we have these singular challenges that we pick up human design. For me, it was purpose. I had a hole inside of me and I knew that I had this purpose that was in there, but I didn't know what it was. And I look back on that and go, wow, not only have I accessed my purpose, aligned to my purpose, am I living my purpose, but everything else in my life has improved and amplified. So I'm always curious to what is the thing that draws us to it in the first place, because I also think that that's so interesting. It's so interesting that it would be your environment that would be like that catalytic thing that's like, okay, I can't ignore this. I just think that's so cool. So you have picked up human design. So tell everyone, obviously we know you're a reflector, but tell us the rest of your profile. We know your strategy, obviously, and authority, but you can go through that anyway for those who are maybe not clear on how the strategy and authority works. We'll come back to that in a minute. And then your profile, did I say profile? And incarnation cross.
Well, I'm a reflector. I have reflector or lunar authority, which means that I'm supposed to wait 28 days to make major decisions. And a lot of times you might hear reflectors say, well, that's not reasonable. I will say that if you're in alignment, it's totally a reasonable thing to do. And so I tend to wait 28 days, sometimes longer, to make big decisions. And I'm a 1-4 profile, so 1 for investigator opportunist, and I'm on the right angle cross of rulership.
I love it. So tell us, let's start with when you first started your experiment and you learned about your strategy and your authority. And maybe even if you want to talk to your profile a little bit as well, what did you first take away from it? Because I love that you're like, yeah, like 28 days is a thing, people, that is true. But when you first came to it, how did that feel? And then how did you start to experiment with that, like trust it?
I was actually waiting a lunar cycle to make big decisions before I came to human design. And so it was really just validating, like, oh, I think it was like something that I just like kind of thought was normal. And other people would tell me about these decisions they were making in like 3 days, and I would like freak out. I'd be like, what do you mean you're moving and you just decided that 3 days ago? It's just like, it was something I had been doing for a couple of years. And so it was really just kind of like permission slip to do what I had already been doing in terms of waiting my lunar cycle. And it just made sense. And it was like, this is why this happens. I think, was that all you asked, or did you want anything more?
No, that's great. Do you want to talk a bit to your profile? Because I know one of the things for you, I feel like your profile is so important because, you know, like you often even refer to it a lot. It's like it really makes sense for you. Do you want to talk a little bit about when you discovered what that was, and maybe thinking, or maybe coming from that place of, what did you stop doing and what did you start doing once you understood that you were this 1-4 profile?
I think the 1-4, 2 foundational lines, it just makes so much sense for me. I think for me, it takes me time to feel comfortable around people. I definitely resonate with the first line, like needing to know all the things before you can actually take action, which isn't always resourceful, but I resonate with it. And just the 4th line, the need to be around the right people. And that goes back to that housing situation where I just like, it wasn't just like my undefined G center saying, this isn't the right environment for you, Britta. It was my 4th line saying, these people that you're living with aren't the right people for you, and that's okay. So I think just my 4th line being very clear on who's right for me. And those are things I think that I've always done in my life, just kind of like, you know, I if someone's not right for me, I kind of know that. And just also the one line I love to research. I did a curatorial internship at the Smithsonian in college. I was like so big into research, and then I realized that I was like super bored of just researching, so I couldn't be a curator. 4th line coming into play. I think something that I stopped doing once I really kind of, and this is something I'm in the process of right now because I'm leaving my teaching. I'm currently a full-time teacher. I'm leaving my teaching job in a month. And
so exciting.
Super excited, but also terrified.
Yeah.
Something that I'm not doing right now is I'm not looking for jobs. And that's scary because it's like I've been conditioned to like get my resume ready and to do all this, to do all that, to do all this. So like, you know, start putting yourself out there. And I'm not doing that because I know that my job is what the opportunities that are going to come next to me are going to come through my network. And so what I'm doing is I'm leaning into my network and I'm doing things that are helping me meet new people. I'm leaving for Liz Zamorski's Intuit retreat tomorrow. And that's like a network that I'm going to develop. And so I'm doing these things to help me lean into networking, but I'm not actively looking for jobs. And I think that is full permission slip from my fourth line. And when I look back on how I've gotten previous jobs, again, full permission from my fourth line, because I got my last job through my network, and I've gotten previous jobs through networks. And so it's just, I'm not trying, because when I try, things don't work out.
Yeah, I love that. I really resonate with that. I've just had the most crazy experience. I haven't shared it yet, and I'll share it as soon as it's 100% done. But I think that is so important, like understanding the difference between, being excited about something and wanting to create something, or being ready to change and shift, and not trying too hard, because when we try too hard, we do tend to push things away instead of, calling them in. So yeah, I love that. I want to talk a little bit more now, because I think sometimes when people come to human design, and, this is partially why I've created transformational human design, because when people come to human design, they learn about their design, and it can almost feel almost two-dimensional. It's like they'll learn these things about themselves, but what is the journey? And I think that's where the Gene Keys comes in. It really helps us see more of the journey of the energy that lies within us, not just this two-dimensional. Do you want to talk a little bit to, maybe we can talk about your incarnation cross and just the process that maybe you went through. Like at first, was it, what does this mean? Oh, yep, that resonates, but how do I live it? And then to today, where perhaps you've got more of a grasp on it, you're leaning into it, you're maybe more aware of your shadows. What's that journey been like for you?
My whole journey in teaching has been coming to terms with the positive sides of my incarnation cross. I've been in the classroom as a full-time teacher for 2 years. So I've been in education in different roles for multiple years since I graduated from college in 2015, from undergrad. But I got my master's in 2021 in education, and I've been in the classroom for 2 years. And my first year in the classroom was so rough. I felt so disempowered. Like when I think about the low of my incarnation cross, which is like feeling disempowered and out of control, that was my first year in the classroom. And there's still been a lot of that feeling this year, where I'm just like feeling out of control. But the more I come into alignment, the more I just don't care anymore. Like whatever happens in my classroom, and we're not going to die, because I'll make sure of that. And I just feel like kind of owning my authority has really been getting out of my mind, to be quite honest. And before I joined the mastermind, and before I was in my mind so much about human design last year, and just trying to be in alignment through my mind with my incarnation cross and with other elements of my design as well. And really, since being in your community, Mastermind, HDX, being on Team Emma, so many different parts, I've really just begun to sink into the body more. And it hasn't been something I've thought about. It's just been the deconditioning process. And it happens naturally over time. Mm-hmm. And I do feel so much more an authority figure. I find that I have this feeling of authority exuding from me more often, which is the high part of the incarnation, the rock cross of rulership. I don't want to say I'm ruling, because I don't know. I feel like that. I don't know. It's probably not the best name. I don't want to say.
I feel it's so funny. I would say, I was going to say all, but maybe there's one exception. There are so many crosses of rulership in my world. I've worked with so many of them. There's 2 on the team, but maybe even 3 in my whole team. And they all say the same thing. No, I don't know about rulership. It's really interesting. And I remember on the mastermind that was one of the things that I had to keep bringing you back to, but pay attention. Every time you speak, everyone listens. Everyone, wants to hear what you have to say. And I love that. And if you consciously, I know you said a lot of it's just kind of happened, but was it through this process of, diving into each gate, maybe understanding the gene key as well, understanding those shadows, and then just being consciously aware of the shadow and perhaps choosing the higher expressions? Or did you go through a process of healing shadow aspects? Was there anything like that you did?
Oh my gosh, yes, I have Done. Well, just going through all the gates. I have my Gene Keys book over there that my friend got me for Christmas. And I just love, like whenever a gate is transiting in the sun, I'll read it. And so just understanding, I think having the shadow gift in the city is so resourceful. And I love the Gene Keys language. And so, yes, I have done a lot of healing work. I have done quantum healing with Amy Michelle, who is also in my mastermind.
She's amazing. I think she's going to come on the podcast at some time soon to talk about
everybody needs to learn about Amy Michelle. She's amazing.
She's amazing.
I did a quantum healing session with her at the end of February, beginning of March. It was right before my birthday. And I just woke up the next day. So she's a couple hours behind me. And so she was doing it when I was sleeping. And I woke up the next day and I was like, oh my God, I just feel like a new person. Like my body felt so clean and so clear. And she was able to get so much out of my system. It was freaking amazing. Like it changed my life. I feel like I'm going to do something with her every year, just reset. But that was incredible. I also have been doing a lot of work on my Akashic records. I've been doing a lot of past life healing. I had a past life reading with Liz Zamorsky a few months ago, and I've also been going into my own past lives and my Akashic records. And I've been doing tapping. Amy Clementi has another mastermind person. My fourth line is just spewing at all these people. Amy Clementi, who's also been on the podcast, she has a tapping through the transits offering that she offers. And so every time something is transiting, like every time the Gene Key is transiting in the sun, I'll tap that gate. And I just remember when the 22 was transiting, which is my conscious sun, and I was tapping on the 22. I was like, oh my God, I feel this so deeply. I feel this so deeply, just the dishonor and just recognizing how much I have been dishonoring myself, which is the shadow of the 22. And that's my conscious sun and my conscious Mercury. And so I think all these different things have come together to really, obviously human design and the Gene Keys have been really lovely and amazing, but then supporting it with all this other healing work has just been, it's been a wild ride this year. And it's been a wild ride.
I just love that, because I think that this is, that's also why I created transformational human design, because I think sometimes people are coming to human design and they're like, fix me. But it's like, no. It's a framework. It's a treasure. I love treasure map.
And it's a process.
Exactly. And we do need to support ourselves. We do need to support ourselves with healing modalities, looking at our trauma, rewiring our unconscious mind, learning to access our intuition and potentially our spirit guides and all of those sort of things. So, but the thing that I love is that this, our human design, this map, something we constantly can come back to, like when we get derailed or confused or overwhelmed or whatever it is, we can come back to it and go, okay, cool. I'm just going to put all that thinking down or that knowledge down and just come back to my design. And then go from there. So I just think it's I love the framework of it. And I'm also building this incredible piece of material where really diving into the beliefs of each gate, the unresourceful ones and then the resourceful ones, and then the pathway to get from one to the other, which I'm so excited about, especially as a behavioral coach, because I spend so much time helping people access what their specific block is or belief is that's getting in their way. And I really feel like when we integrate like transformational coaching, the Gene Keys, human design, NLP, when we put all of this together, you can just create such an incredibly empowering roadmap. So I'm so excited.
So many cool things. Love it.
So what would you say, given that and I know that we know that you're moving out of teaching and you're going to do more of this, you're a coach for our community. You do unpacks for our community. We also, this part of this is really exciting for me because I get to introduce you all to everybody and put you out in the world. So what would you say your superpower is? Like, how do you specifically like to help people?
Oh, that's a big question.
That I probably should have given you before.
No, I think you did give it to me because you sent out the questions. But I think there is just so much magic in being able to reflect people, and as a reflector, and help people step into their authority with the cross of rulership. And I'm just even thinking of my North and South nodes, like 35 and 5, going from this place of chaos / adventure to a place of more the gate 5, the gate of patience and fixed patterns, and just like stepping more into that place of patience, which totally resonate with. Oh my God. And I'm not even into the north node part of my life yet, but I have seen just in my own life how stepping into patience for me has been so helpful and really transformative. I mean, as a reflector, having patience and time is important. So I think, I mean, to wrap it up into like a neat sort of bow, if I can do that succinctly, it's really my superpower is allowing people the space and time to step into their authority and to kind of find their own authority through my reflections and my first line knowledge, and just give them that space to feel like they don't need to rush, that they can do it in their own time and have beautiful things happen.
I love that. And, you know, one of the things about the cross of rulership is it's here to redefine what power means. And I think one of the things that I noticed from you or with you right from the beginning is that, you know, it's almost like, and obviously I haven't actually met you in real life, but I imagine that you're not necessarily a very tall person, especially when we first started on the mastermind. You know, you would have a quieter tone, you would speak less. And one of the things that I've been so grateful to witness is you stepping into your power and redefining what power means, because you don't have to be the loudest, you don't have to take up the most space, you don't have to whatever, but when you speak, it's like, whoa, people listen. And I think that that's a lot of how you help and serve and support people is, well, what's your definition of power? When you step into your power, what does that mean for you? And it doesn't need to be the masculine, set a goal, you know, go smash it, let's just do it as fast as we possibly can. It's more of that feminine, like it's there, we just have to plug it in for you. So I love that. Does that feel like it resonates for you?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely, like, throughout my life, I've had people say, oh, you're so cute, you're so sweet, which I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm awesome. And like, just like that, I can be, it's so funny. I had a student a couple of days ago was like, I would be so surprised if you were 30. I just turned 30, because he was like imagining me to be like 8-year-old, imagining to be like much younger. So I do have this like quality of like seeming like youthful and young and like sweet and nice, I mean, kind, but that there's also recognizing that there's power in that way of being.
Oh my God, I love that. I love that. I love that. So if people want to work with you, how do they find you?
I'm on Instagram at Aligned and Undefined. I just changed my Instagram handle about a month ago from my name to Aligned and Undefined. And so people can follow me on Instagram. I'm currently not offering unpacks through Emma's website because I'm finishing up my teaching job, and that's exhausting, y'all, especially for a non-sacral being like myself. And so I'm hoping to have my unpacks schedule up and running this summer. Stay tuned. And if you're an HCX, you can come in and chat with me in the Facebook group. I love communicating with people on there. I'm in a period of transition, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how I can grow my offerings in the next year. But for now, Facebook group, Instagram, and fingers crossed for unpacks this summer. I'm sure they're going to happen.
I love it. So good. So we'll put the links in the show notes and make sure that you follow Britta. And you can also just stay tuned to the website because she's up on the website too. Thanks everyone for being here. Thank you so much, Britta. This was super fun.
It was. Thank you.
I trust everyone got what they needed from today's episode, and I so look forward to having you on the next one. Bye for now. Thanks everyone for being here all the way to the end of the podcast. I hope you got lots of value out of it. I certainly had a lot of fun doing it. Could I please ask that you share this podcast with friends if you found it valuable? And also, bonus points, could you leave a review for me as well on Apple? It would be greatly appreciated. If at any point you would like to be on the podcast, or you've got questions that you'd like me to discuss on the podcast, by all means get on my socials and DM me. Everything you need is there in the show notes. Have an awesome day. Bye for now.